Welcome back to another FSD Down Under video. We've got our destination set. It's already plucked that from my calendar automatically. All I've got to do is push this blue button and away we go. So FSD Supervised is a Tesla system available on all the current generation Tesla vehicles, which will take you from destination to destination with zero input from the driver required. It is supervised. You are responsible for the system's safety. So you do have to monitor it, and it does make sure you're watching and paying attention. But other than that, it'll handle all the acceleration, braking, turning, intersections, pedestrians, traffic, the works. Has no issues with the roundabouts, which are much more common in Australia than they are in the US. You'll see it. This drive is about an hour and a half. We're starting from the west of Brisbane, heading to the south of the Gold Coast to Coolangatta. So it's a fairly decent length drive, and we'll see some heavy traffic, multi-lane freeways, as well as suburban areas as well. Apologies, I'm still experimenting with the camera location and in the process of getting a better camera as well. Just still using the phone, and where the sun shines into the phone, it does affect it a little bit for the outside view. We'll fast forward the boring bits though, and I'll be back with you as we see something that's worth talking about. We've had FSD in Australia now for coming up 3 weeks, and I'd have to say I've been using it 99% of the time at least for my drives. I use it every drive for most or all the drive, and quite often with zero need for any sort of intervention at all. Just as we come up to this merge, one comment I've had from viewers, I've been critical of the FSD system in previous videos, leaving it to the last minute to merge over. But as many pointed out correctly, the correct way to do a zipper merge is exactly like that, and the most efficient way for traffic to flow. Personally, when I'm driving, I'm usually in no hurry and just like to get in the right-hand lane early and not have to deal with having to merge. But for efficiency, this is the way that particular road mechanism is designed. And another point someone else made is very valid too. You need to get it kind of away from expecting FSD to drive like you do, and more about letting FSD do its thing as long as it's doing it safely and not annoying anyone else and everything else. I think that's the criteria we should be using. But and especially when it becomes unsupervised eventually, and you're able to sit in the back seat or go to sleep or do whatever you want, be working or doing something else while FSD is driving, you're not going to care about exactly how it's merging or like that, as long as it's doing it safely, which the system is extremely safe, and it really gives you a lot of confidence very quickly. It isn't perfect, and that's why it is supervised still. You do need to make sure that it's doing the right thing, and it can occasionally do something that's a little bit silly, not dangerous, but something that other drivers won't expect and will annoy other drivers generally, as far as I can see. So it is important to watch it and just make sure it's doing the right thing. So we're on version 13.2.9, which version 14 is about to be released in the US. Hopefully it'll come to Australia shortly after that. Each major version is a massive improvement on the previous, and version 14 is the second biggest jump that we've seen so far. So all indication so far is it's going to be pretty fantastic. And version 13 already is extremely good. Most drives are completely intervention free. Sometimes we have to give it a bit of what we call the pedal of encouragement, the accelerator pedal, or just give it a bit of a nudge to change lanes or speed up slightly. And that's pretty much it. The biggest problems we see is with its lane selection currently. Sometimes it's really good, especially with forks in the freeways, that kind of stuff. It tends to know about those well ahead of the time and be in the right lane. But sometimes with exits and that kind of thing, it can leave it to the last minute and get caught out. So we'll see if we get any of those in this drive, and see how we go with getting a fully intervention-free drive or not. As you can see, it's handled all the intersections, roundabouts. It's changing back into the slow lane now, merging onto freeways with no issues. It really is a fantastic system. The message on the screen now saying apply slight turning force to the wheel. What the system does, it's got cameras above the rear view mirror that are looking at your eyes, making sure you're paying attention. Generally, it doesn't require any intervention at all. It just keeps focus on your eyes. Sometimes I've got fairly dark glasses on, and sometimes it just loses sight of those eyes for a couple of minutes, and then it'll ask you just to confirm you're still watching. But it's very rare for me that it happens, and that's the first time. We'll see if it happens again on this drive, but I'll be surprised if it does. The system is pretty sensitive for the first release in Australia, and I think it'll become less sensitive as time goes on, and eventually they've talked about removing that altogether. There's a few ways to interact with FSD as it's controlling the vehicle. You can take over any time by just grabbing the wheel and turning it to where you want it to go, hitting the brake or pushing the right scroll wheel in to disengage. If you just want to just do some minor adjustments, you can use the right scroll wheel up and down to vary the maximum speed. There's also a setting in the settings to tell it what's the offset it's allowed to use for the speed limit. I've got that set on 0 because the police in Australia are not as forgiving as they are in the US, where they tend to not book you if you're just following the flow of the traffic. Here they do book you doing 1 or 2 kilometres an hour over, unfortunately. But you can use that to give it a maximum speed higher than the speed limit. It won't necessarily go to that speed. What it will do is look at the traffic around it and come up to that speed, to a similar speed as the surrounding traffic, which is a safe way to drive, but unfortunately they don't see it that way in Australia. There's a rather annoying situation up ahead here. You'll see on the left there's a 60 sign that applies to the ramp to the left. However, the positioning of it isn't great. It'd be great if there was a 100 sign next to it or something, but there is that lit up one before it, but it does tend to catch it if you're in the left-hand lane. But the good thing is that it doesn't just slow right down. It can see that you come from a 100 zone. There's a traffic all around you doing 100, so it kind of just hesitates and slows down a little. But pedal of encouragement keeps it up to 100, and it very quickly reestablishes that it's a 100 speed limit. But that is something that's repeatable in the left-hand lane in that particular section, unfortunately. But like I said, it doesn't just immediately drop down to 60. When it sees those big jumps from 60 to 100 or 100 to 60, there's even a couple of 100 to 40s and 40 to 100s, which is a bad design in my book. It tends to take its cues from the traffic around rather than just assuming it needs to slow down immediately to 60 or 40 or whatever it happens to be. I guess you can call this the first mistake of the trip. I wouldn't really call it a mistake, but it's inconvenient. It's overtaking this vehicle. However, that vehicle's got to merge, and it's sitting at a similar speed. So personally, I would have moved over to the right-hand lane. I've just given a bit of pedal of encouragement to get ahead of that vehicle so that it can merge without issue. Certainly not a safety issue. They could have slowed down and got in behind us, but it's not ideal, that's for sure. This was a little bit weird, something with the navigation. It should have really stayed on the freeway here, on the motorway, but it's taking the exit and it just going off and straight back on again. I just let it do its thing. It's not really a big deal, but just a strange issue with navigation. You can, of course, override it by just cancelling the indicator, and it would have stayed in the lane, but no big deal. I just wanted to see what it was doing, and it just took this little detour. Okay, so here we're coming onto the main freeway. It has to get over a couple of lanes. It makes this first lane change here. Fortunately, the car next to us is moving over, so it's able to get over. There's definitely some improvements I'm hoping to see in version 14 with lane changes. It tends to not want to slow down to make a lane change. So if you're doing the speed limit and you've got no offset, so it can't go any faster, it will tend to it'll indicate, try and change lanes. But if there's a car next to you doing the same speed, it can't, so it just sits there. it'll stop indicating, try again later on, which becomes a problem if it's running out of road space and it needs to take an exit that it didn't want to take as a result. I'm hoping that will change. If it's doing slower than the speed limit, it will speed up, so there's no issues there. But in this case here, I end up taking over the road. The lane we're in is an exit-only lane, so it's going to exit off the freeway. And I didn't want to have it do anything silly at the last second. I probably should have let it go a little longer and see what it did. I've tried to encourage it to change lanes by hitting the indicator there. It didn't seem to want to do it, so I've taken over, disengaged, and changed lanes myself. We can definitely count that as a disengagement. Not a safety critical issue. Would have just had to take the exit and get back on the freeway again later on. So not a massive issue, but certainly something I hope to see. And that's the idea of these videos, is to really sort of see where we're at currently and track the improvements as new versions come out. Test the same things again, especially where we can see repeatable issues, and see if it improves with the new versions. This sort of stop-start traffic is really where FSD is fantastic. It just takes all the stress out of it. It's quite annoying having to sit in this sort of traffic for extended periods of time. Just being able to sit back and kind of just monitor it is much more relaxing, and it's fantastic. This goes on for quite a while, unfortunately. Generally, FSD in Australia, we don't have the driving profiles that they have currently in the US. I believe they're chill, standard, and hurry. Ours seems to be in a kind of a chill mode. It likes to stick in the left-hand lane. The car in front is doing considerably slower, say 10 kilometers an hour or so, it will overtake. But if all the cars are in the area are doing the same sort of speed, it'll just sit there and happily stay in the left-hand lane. Scrolled the speed down there just to make sure that it let that car in, but it was going to do it anyway, so there was no need to do that. But yeah, look, it's just a matter of sitting there and watching it do its thing. It very rarely needs any sort of interventions, especially on a road like this, in heavy traffic like this. So, ironically, the left-hand lane seems to be faster in a lot of cases on this particular stretch. Not quite often the case, unfortunately. It nicely lets this car in on the left-hand side there. It's a thank you wave as acknowledgement. I don't think they realise they're actually thanking a computer and not me. It got quite a few nice thank you waves on the way, actually, during this trip. executes a very nice and assertive lane change here with that the traffic on the left starts banking up. Really well done. It tends to change your attitude to driving. You don't get flustered or annoyed, people cutting you off or, stop start traffic, that kind of stuff. It just kind of, you sit there and just go, yeah, I don't care, I'm not driving. It really relaxes you, takes all those sort of dull, boring drives away from you. The daily commute to and from work or the commute down a busy gridlocked freeway. It just makes it so much more enjoyable. I think this system already has proven its safety records and that kind of thing. There's already been over 1 million miles, 1 million kilometres driven in Australia in the first 2 weeks, I think it was, where that record was set. And if all the cars on the road were using this system or a similar capability, we would see our death tolls on the roads go to near zero. I'm absolutely convinced of that, and there's no doubt of that at all. But hopefully one day we'll get there. It really is a shame to see all those lives needlessly taken on the roads. You've got a system here that's got 8 sets of eyes looking, all around the car, being able to react instantly to anything that goes on. Doesn't get distracted, doesn't get tired, doesn't drink and drive, all those sorts of things. Doesn't do stupid things on the road. If we had this sort of level of safety in all vehicles, it would really make a huge difference. The other thing that is notable too is the efficiency FSD allows. Yes, we are on a stop-start freeway, so that does help with an electric vehicle, but a sub 100 kilowatt per kilometre is a pretty amazing efficiency. The Model 3 Highland version is the most efficient electric vehicle on the road, but FSD just gives that extra layer of efficiency as well. I was getting a little bit nervous here. I had reached for the indicator a couple of times to try and make it to go over, but I let it go. And fortunately, it does change lanes here. It has an exit coming up, so I wanted to make sure it did. Interesting, it's keeping that speed up, even though there's a 60 sign there. It's keeping with the traffic and manages to get over to the left-hand lane there. Now this was interesting too. The navigation had it turning left up ahead. But as you can see, the traffic's all back all the way back in that lane, and it doesn't really attempt to change lanes. It ends up going straight ahead, which actually saves a lot of time. So I'm not quite sure if that was deliberate or just a fortunate accident. I do know I've seen that FSD can sometimes ignore the suggested navigation route and do its own thing. And in this case, it seems to have paid off. It really made no attempt to try and turn left or go to the left-hand lane, so I'm assuming it did this deliberately. So there you have it. It was over 90 minutes of driving time. Only one disengagement, not safety critical. A couple of pedal to encouragement, but other than that, very little interaction at all. One steering wheel nag, which would have been due to sunglasses and just whatever angle the sun or wherever I was looking at didn't think I was paying enough attention. But yeah, look, a really enjoyable drive. As I mentioned, we've generally getting most drives with no interventions at all. Most of them, it's parking me at the end. I've actually had quite a few Bunnings car parks and a similar where it's parked me. It's really good with pedestrians and really seeing their intentions, understanding if they're on a crosswalk or if they're just crossing the road in the middle of the road. Definitely is erring on the side of safety, but it also recognises when they're looking to cross the road when they're not, and when they wave you on, that kind of stuff. I didn't let it park here because it was an extremely busy car park, so I cut the video at the end here. But I hope you enjoyed that. I've kept it all one uncut stream, just sped it up where it needed speeding up. I know people like to see the uncut version. If people want the non-sped up version, I can do that in the future, but I think probably most people don't want to sit through boring hours of driving. Anyhow, please give us a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know what you want to see. See you next time.